because this gentleman has a lot of good stuff to tell you. Okay? Ready? This is a Korean War veteran interview on Thursday, April 22nd, 2004, conducted at Orchard Park High School in Buffalo, New York, in Orchard Park, New York. The interviewers are, say your name please.
Cassie Sheehan.
Bill McCabe.
Kevin Kilmurray.
Kim Phelps.
Joe Fury.
And they are interviewing Clayton Speidel. Okay? Everybody ready? It'll probably be about 35 minutes because I'm going to come up a couple minutes before the end of the period to take your picture as a group. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Have fun.
Thanks.
Kevin, go ahead.
Alright, well, how exactly did you get involved in the war? Did you decide right after high school, or did you, like, anything like that, or?
No, years ago we were still involved in the draft system.
Oh, right, I got you.
It was right after World War II, in fact, around 1950, 51. And so actually, years ago I used to hear, did you get your greetings? And I'd say, what is a greetings? You know? And he says, oh, guys would say, that's what I got in the service. So have me come in and get interviewed, and not interviewed, but it was a draft system. And actually, the words that you got in your letter says greetings. Your friends and neighbors have chosen you to serve them. And that's what I got. Didn't have any choice.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, so I ended up being drafted into the Army.
Were you 18, or, like, what age were you?
No, I was 20.
You were 20?
Mm-hmm.
Were you like scared at all, or were you kind of like excited to go in?
Well, we knew it was going to come sooner or later. All we had to do was pass a physical, which I passed. And so they accepted me.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Buffalo. I was brought up in Buffalo, New York, on the east side. And I was working for a company that manufactured lamps and chandeliers and stuff like that. So when I got called, I went in, took my physical, passed it, and waited for them to tell me when I'm going.
What were your like duties when you first got in?
Actually, when I first got in, the first place we went to was a camp up in Massachusetts called Fort Devens. And that's where you went in, they processed all your papers, they decided where they were going to send you. So I stayed there for about 10 days. And then from there, I got my first airplane ride. I'd never been on an airplane in my life. And they flew us out of Boston, Massachusetts, down to Camp Gordon, Georgia. And then from there, I went to 8 weeks of training, basic training for infantrymen. And then I went for a schooling. It was called 8 weeks of signal. Camp Gordon, Georgia was a signal corps company. So I got 8 weeks of schooling and 8 weeks of drilling, you know, the same old stuff, running around and going out on bivouac, learning how to shoot a rifle, learning how to throw hand grenades, whatever you had to do.
Yeah.
So we got our 8 weeks basic, and after that I went to school, and then I got my orders to go. They were listed as you're going to the Far East. And I had no idea where. But
What happened like when you got there?
well, I got my orders. They gave me 6 weeks vacation. 6 weeks, I'm sorry, 6 days. And then I flew out to, it's a place called Pittsburgh, California, which is a replacement center. And you went through there, and every day you had to report to this great big field and wait for your name to be called, and then you got your orders of where you were going. So I stayed there about 6 days, and finally my name was called out, because you got thousands and thousands of guys there that are getting their papers. So it ended up, I left there, we got on a ship, and then it took us about 16 days, and we ended up in Camp Drake, which is in Tokyo, Japan. And from there, we went in, got some more orders of where we were going from there. They issued us an M1 rifle and all our fatigue clothes. You know, we didn't get dress clothes because we were heading over towards Korea. So we got back on a boat. From there, we landed in Incheon. Incheon has very low tides at times. You can't get into the harbor, so we had to disembark from the ship. We had to crawl down and get into these transport boats, and then they took us in. I understand today that what they've done in Incheon, it's really changed a lot, is they have something like a system where they can contain the water and the ships can come in and dock, and they can close these gates so the water stays high enough, and then when the tides go back out, they can open up the gates and the ships can go out. But years ago, they weren't able to do that. You had to disembark from a ways out and get transported in by different ships. But I landed in Incheon, and then they put me on a train, and I had come over there with a bunch of the guys I went through basic with. But by the time I ended up at my final destination, I was the only one. We were separated from all our friends. But that way there you get to know new friends. So it was a scary feeling, you know. I mean, I can't say I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in a strange country. You're on a train driving across country in pitch dark. You're seeing all these flashes going on. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where you're going to go. But I ended up in an infantry outfit. I was in Baker Company. And for the first couple of weeks, we did a lot of training in what they call a reserve position. We were behind the line, backing up another outfit, but we were doing all these different drills, you know, squad formations, and every day we would go through, you'd have maybe like what they call 2 dry runs, and then you'd have a wet run. Wet run meant that you used live ammunition, so you did all these different tactics that you would use in squads. It was about a couple of weeks. I had a lieutenant and a sergeant come up and interview me for what I learned in the message center in the Signal Corps. And after that, they took me down and put me in, and I became attached to the headquarters company, which was a message center. The message center was handling all security information. We used to have to take all kinds of secret information up to the different outfits along the line, first line of fire, and all the outposts we used to have to bring security information to. I drove a Jeep for a while, and that was quite an experience because you're driving around, all you have is these 2 little cat eyes, and you're driving in pitch darkness, but you got to know the roads after a while, and you were just delivering all this information. I used to have with me in a Jeep, I had what they called 3 shotgun riders, and these guys were here to help out if we ran into any trouble. Unfortunately, we never did, but they were there. It was quite an experience. You know, it's but the one thing, you get very close to each fellow that you're in the service with. Each guy is in the same position you are. You know, we're all far away from home, so you bond pretty much, and you depend upon each guy. So it's an experience. It's an experience I'll never forget, and I never regret it. I mean, it's a duty I felt I did what I had to do.
Do you still keep in touch with some of the people that you were in?
Oh yeah, I kept track with a couple of my buddies. They've passed away since, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the country I was in. You know, you don't understand the people unless you've been there.
Yeah.
And you see what goes on in these other countries. I mean, I come home to appreciate, the freedom that I do have and what we have in this country. I mean, as what you see in other places. So, and a lot of people say, well, why are they angry with us? Well, they hear everything in the newspapers and they believe what their government's doing, and sometimes information is a little bit tangled up. So those people are no different than you and I. They want freedom too, but unfortunately there's governments that think otherwise, and they suppress a lot of people. So that's what's happened in a lot of lands today. It just seems nobody can get together and get along.
What did you guys do, like when you weren't in training or anything?
Oh, keep ourselves busy?
Yeah.
Well, we played cards, sat around, just talked. When we went back in a reserve area, we ended up, we played basketball, played football, threw the ball around, played catch. We did get supplies like that. Our food was pretty good. We usually got 2 hot meals a day, and then we got what they call sea rations for lunch. And that was you had your choice: a can of beans, a can of hash, some hamburgers in a can. That was your choice. But these were old sea rations, I believe, that were left from the Second World War, which was passed on to us. They had to use them up.
How was the food?
Food was pretty good. In the morning, a lot of times we had eggs, cereal. I didn't get any milk to put over my cereal because it was that dried milk, It's not like the milk today where you pour it out, mix it with water, and it looks real nice. This was you pour water in it, and you got all these big lumps like this here in your cereal. Didn't dissolve too good. And I wasn't a coffee drinker, so I ended up getting down early for breakfast because the juice went awful fast, so I had to hurry up and get something to drink. But the food was, it was pretty good. The cooks did a good job. We had warm meals at night, and if you could get to the food before all the gnats got to it, well, you did pretty good. See, you didn't have the luxury of having tables and chairs and stuff like that, so you pulled up your helmet and you sat on it and ate before the gnats got to them.
Did you learn Korean at all, or?
No.
No?
Just a little.
Oh, I
Few
got
little
you.
sayings,
To get you through, yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't know too much. We had some Koreans that worked in like the kitchen and that. They did hire some the people there. I had a friend, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee used to do my laundry for me because we used to have to mark all our laundry, all your socks and all your shorts and your T-shirts and then you would put them in a bag, and then they would pick them up, and you didn't know if you were going to get yours back or not. So I liked the idea of paying Mr. Lee. So I used to pay him, and he'd come wash all my stuff and bring it back to me. That was after I got a little more rank. When you didn't have the rank, you didn't get them little perks. So I learned Mr. Lee. He was quite an old man. He probably was one of the richest guys in Korea when we left because he did a lot of laundry. But we even had a fellow that used to do our hair, cut our hair,
Mm-hmm.
And we used to pay him a little bit. So we did have some Koreans. They were very nice and probably most appreciative.
Did you get any medals while you were there?
Well, yeah, I was awarded what they called, I guess that's on this here jacket here. This badge here is what they call a combat infantry badge, and that's awarded if you served any time up on a line, which is in a combat zone. And you have to serve, I forget how many days it is, but that I got, and then I got Just a few ribbons, you know, the Korean service and the United Nations. And there's been a couple awarded, I guess, but I don't have any with me right now. I had some, but I remember my kids years ago got a hold of them, and you know, they're gone.
Do you were in the combat zone?
Yes. When I first got over there, like I say, fortunately, I had a weapon and everything, but I never had to shoot anybody. I was fortunate. Unfortunately, there were other guys that they weren't as fortunate. We used to see I don't know if you ever see that picture or that television series MASH.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where helicopters come in, and on each one of the runners they have people that have been wounded in combat, and they fly them into the MASH units. But we used to see that constantly, every day. They'd be flying them in and out. So I don't know. When I delivered these secret information and stuff like that, I got lost one time way out somewhere. And the guy told me I'm going the wrong way, so I ended up turning around and going the right way. But the only time that I had really was sort of pretty well scared out of my wits is there was an escape from a prison camp down in Busan, Busan, Korea, which is in the southern tip. And a lot of prisoners had escaped, and they said they were infiltrating back up through the to the north. So they gave us, I was on guard one night, and everything you see in the dark, a little bush, always looks like somebody or something. And we were out there, and they told us, you know, to be on the watch in case anybody comes filtering up. Well, fortunately, nothing happened. But while I was walking, I heard this plane going over, and all of a sudden, all these flares come out that lit up the whole area. And my gosh, you could see it was like daylight. And I'm wondering what's going on. You know? And fortunately, nothing ever happened. So I have been very fortunate.
How long were you in Korea for?
12 months and 10 days.
What did you do when you came back?
I came back, that was another funny thing. We put us on, we came in the San Francisco harbor. They put us on a train, and they took us cross country. We ended up going down to California, through Texas, Oklahoma, up to Chicago. And I woke up one morning, and I looked outside, and I said, gee, this looks awful familiar. And here I was down in New York Central Terminal, but I couldn't get off of the train. I had to go all the way to Kilmore, where we went through processing again, and then they wrote up orders where I was to spend the rest of my time. But I did get back from Camp Kilmer, which is in New Jersey, and I had about 54 days of leave time coming, and I took about every one of them, you know, because I wanted to come back home. Down there, I worked in a communications center, and just waited my time to get out.
Did you have family here?
Yes, my mom and dad were at home.
What was it like coming back?
Well, I never told them when I was coming back. I just knocked at the door one day, and they were pretty excited. Yeah, it was good getting home. It's quite an experience, a good feeling.
Did you keep in touch with them when you were in Korea?
Yes, we did write letters. Of course, we didn't have the luxury today where everybody's got an email or they can pick up a cell phone and call up. But that's the only way we kept in touch was by mail. And they were pretty good at getting our mail to us. We moved several times when I was up in Korea. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 38th parallel. That's the dividing line.
Yeah.
That's where we were. We went from one end back and forth. We never stayed at one place too long. So, the last place I was at is right outside of Pamela and John, and we used to watch the delegation going up every day with the peace talks. I had a couple pictures of maybe you want to see them later. They're not much. Pictures that are, I don't know where they are now. Well, they're in there somewhere. You can look at them later on. This is what they call Freedom Road. That helicopter is flying on. That's the road they used to go over every day to have the talks. And there was a bridge there. This is called Freedom Bridge. That's a bridge that they used to cross. You notice one of them, they blew it up a couple times, I guess. But then it was all brought back.
What did you do after you came home?
Well, after I was let out, I talked about going back to school. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I checked into school, and I was going to go to UB. Then it ended up I got a job, and the man I went to work for wanted to know if I was going to stay with him, and I didn't really know what to do. So it all hinged on, I had, while I was in the service, I got a letter from a young lady that I had never known in my life, and I started writing to her, and I didn't meet her until I got home. And I guess we hit it off pretty good because she ended up being my wife, so
Oh, that's so cute.
something good come out of the service. If I'd never been in the service, I might not have ever met her. So I decided to stay with this fellow that I worked for. I stayed with him for almost 30 years. And then I ended up, the place closed up. In fact, it used to be a film company. We used to handle 60 millimeter films that we used to send to all the schools. And now today you've got video, so that's what sort of destroyed this business. The video came out, and the film industry just sort of died. Why I got interested in the film industry is while I was in the service, I had a buddy who took care of what they call the post exchange, the PX. If you needed any supplies, he would go and get them for you. And he was also in charge of entertainment. And our entertainment, a lot of times where we got actual 16 millimeter films, and we had a projector and all that stuff over there that we could hook up to a generator and run these movies. But the only place we had was to show them outside. And in Korea, it got very cold. In the wintertime, it would go down to 30 below. And so sometimes you'd be standing outside in about 20, 30 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. You had what they call a big old parka we wore. We had what they call insulated boots, which we used to call Mickey Mouse boots. Mm-hmm. But they kept you very warm, so we used to stand outside watching films, and they had regular films like you see in the theaters. But this buddy of mine, who was in charge of all this stuff, he asked me if I'd help him. So one of the perks was if you helped him, you could go to the office, there's Quonset hut, where it was nice, toasty, warm, and watch the movie. So these were pretty big pieces of equipment, so I helped him lug them around, set it up. So I got to watch the movies inside the Quonset hut where it was nice and warm. But we got a lot of video, what they call video films of programs that they ran over television. I don't know, like the Hit Parade. I don't know if you guys remember any of that stuff. There were different shows that went way back into the 50s. And some of the sitcoms they had back there where we would get a lot of that stuff, along with the other movies. So I was sort of interested in that, and that's what this job I applied for was all about too, was with all films. So it sort of led me in that direction, so I ended up getting a job out of it and getting a wife. So, so how can you go wrong with that?
What were some of your most memorable experiences when you were in Korea?
Well, I did get to what they call rest and recuperation. Everybody got that after so many months serving in Korea, so I ended up fortunately going to Tokyo, Japan for a week. And I didn't know what to expect there, but it was different than what I expected. I expected to see these little old rickshaws running around and little old huts and stuff like that. It really opened my eyes. Tokyo was quite a bustling city. There were cars, traffic. There were rickshaws, but they had 6-lane highways, cars all over the place. They had fancy hotels, fancy restaurants. They had a subway, which I had never been on in my life. And they had a train system, which I was fortunate enough to take a train and go visit. I had a cousin that was stationed in Camp Fuji, Japan. So I did get to see him while I was there. So I ended up getting down there, and he got off, and we spent the night together, you know. It was quite a modern town. One experience I had in there, this friend of mine that I used to help with the movies back in Korea, he and I went together when we went to Japan. Well, we went to a show one night, and I don't know if you ever heard of the film From Here to Eternity. It's way back.
Yeah, I've heard of that film.
Burt Lancaster. Well, it was when it was a film about when the United States was attacked at Pearl Harbor. And in fact, the outfit was the outfit that I belonged to. The 25th Division was stationed in Hawaii. That was their home barracks. And we always used to have a saying around there, we're going to go back to Hawaii and make a movie, you know. But we never did. But they did, believe it or not. They had a film come back, what they call Back from Eternity. But From Here to Eternity was a film about the bombing of Pearl Harbor in the Second World War. And we were sitting in this movie, and all of a sudden the attack came on Pearl Harbor, and all these Japanese planes are coming in and bombing and blowing up everything, and people are getting killed. And all the Japanese people in there are hooping and hollering, yay, yay, and all that stuff. So we were in the midst of all this here, and we're thinking, you know, this isn't good, you know. But once again, you have to realize that that was their country. They thought they were doing what was right. And so, who am I to say? So we sat there and watched the movie, and we understood, you know, we didn't want to get in the middle of a big riot anyway. But I mean, it's just one of those things. But it was sort of an uncomfortable situation, you know, sitting there and watching that. But it was a different experience.
Was there any times when, like, the morale wasn't so great in Korea, like, during the war and everything?
No. Like I say, you're there for a while, you know, you're wondering how much longer you're going to stay. You're always looking forward to the day when you're going to be going home. But, there's times, you know, everything gets tight. It's just like anywhere else.
I got
Just
you.
like being here. But, you know, everybody's in the same position, and you can make it miserable for yourself, or you can grin and bear it, you know.
Yeah.
You have to have an outlook like, hey, you know, it's something you have to live with.
I got you, Will. Thank you.
What sort of like little luxuries did you miss, like from home when you were in Korea?
Just being able to go and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So you're sort of restricted. You're in a compound. We were in tents, and we had bunkers. Our tents were dug, I don't know if you've ever seen a squad tent. It's a pretty big tent. Well, they used to have to be dug. You had 4-foot walls, so you would dig this whole huge thing out, in which we did have help from a lot of the Korean people over there, the workers. They would pay them to do this work. I mean, they